Yeah.
I'm right here.
Yeah.
Come here, Adi. Give me a hug.
Thank you for your bag.
Yeah, I needed that.
Good.
How you doing? Good.
Yeah, I was shopping around fossils and stuff, this and here. So,
Right.
You know.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
Hi, Glenn.
Hello, Adi.
Welcome to the museum.
That's right. Long time in the making. We've been working on this together. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I knew about your autobiography and that you work and are specialized in world record stones and specific single objects and not mass production, and that you are a brand.
Yes, I am.
you are the carving king for me.
Yes.
King.
The king.
The king.
Okay.
So you make the carvings. You
Yes.
make the carvings. How you call it? Concave. Convex.
negative faceting.
Negative faceting.
Yes.
I call it negative. Is that correct?
Yeah, negative carving.
Yeah.
Where you go in and you do that.
So at the bottom of the stone, actually, you have instead you carve like this. You carve in like this and like this and like this. How come you do this?
Well, the V faceting. Well, I love doing. That's kind of where my art is. My art is. I tell people, you know, a lapidarist has to be three things. They have to be an artist if they really do the kind of work that I do. They have to understand the technical. So you have to have some science background. I had an undergraduate studies of mineralogy and crystallography, so I had a background in that. I did eventually get my gemology degree, so I applied my mineralogy to my geology. And then you have to be a machinist, because all the tools, especially when you go into what we call negative carving, a machinist, is you have to make your own tools. Because you can't just go to a lapidary store and say, okay, or you could go to a diamond company and say, okay, and so the negative V's are just the inverse critical angle of that gemstone. So let's say the critical angle of sapphire is 34 degrees. I'll make the V reverse invertly as a 39 degree. So I stay within that rotational of brilliance. So I calculate that, and I have to know that, because I have to know not just my gemology or the critical angles of light traveling through a gemstone, but then I have to know how to do that on a machine tool. And then I hand charge the steel with my own diamond, and I do all of that because it gives me the smoothness. And then I have to repeat that same tool at least 3 times, because it's just like doing woodwork. You have the cut, then you have the sanding, and then you have to do the polishing. Sometimes the sanding, there's 3 steps. Like in corundum, you go from, when you're doing the carving, you're going from 1 degree to cut, the next degree for kind of pre-polish, then a pre-polish, and then the polish. So and each tool is the same shape, but different mesh of diamond, different particle, micron size of diamond that you push embedded into the soft steel. So you have to have all those skills. So that's what excited me about being a lapidarist, is I had come from the background of not gem cutting and jewelry. I had no background at that. But I was an artist all my life. So I've studied fine art, learned art, paint, photography, things like that. But then when I cut my first stone, I was hooked. it'll screw. Look.
Metal that this was made out of.
3, 2, 1, go.
Because sometimes the stone cannot be cut because they have cavities,
Yeah.
and people will make stones, small stones out of
Well,
it.
this one was very flat.
Yeah.
It was a big flat piece from Panjshir, and if anybody else would have cut it,
Emerald from
Emerald
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan emerald.
yeah.
And
Right.
if anybody else would have cut it, they would have ended up with only
Small,
maybe,
small stones.
maybe a 6-carat stone. I ended up with a 12-carat stone.
Yeah, right.
So like that.
Look how the color comes out.
Yeah.
But it's not created by the light going and reflect like this. It's by this
Yeah.
and reflected from here and to there.
So you can see it's actually negative V's, so like inverted pavilions. And they're cut at the precise critical angle, so that when you flip it over, it creates
Every carved
a
intended.
brilliance like that.
Yeah.
And I'll show you let me show you.
Normally the brilliance is created
green barrel?
by a V shape,
barrel.
where the light comes
Yeah.
and comes back up.
That's right.
And now the V shape is turned around and negative inside.
This would be easier to see. So this is a very large green barrel from Brazil, no heat. And I guess if you heated it, you get an aquamarine color, but it's too beautiful, this color. And as you can kind of see these are all V cuts. And the way that I cut it is you cut one V and then you do an opposing opposite. So each V
Alternating.
reflects on the opposite side. So you're multiplying it
All right.
and create that. And then what I do is I put a concave table. And whenever you go concave into a stone, it pushes the light farther away. So you create an optical
Illusion.
like that by creating that optical illusion.
And I had this ruff from Madagascar, the only ruff of a paparacha together with a royal blue.
That's right.
And I wanted to keep it as the only paparacha royal blue sapphire in the world and not make two stones out of it.
Right.
And so the rest you tell the story because you helped me to preserve that.
That's
so
right.
How did
And
it go?
I think we ended up with, what was it, over 60 carats when I started. And I think it's like 47 carats now. And yes, you're right. Normally they would have made most lapidarists might have made an incision right along here to pull the paparacha off of it and lose the blue.
Right.
Okay. There are a lot of paparachas in the world. The royal blue was so dark that you looked at it, you go, well, this is so dark. If you cut a faceted stone, it would be black. And that's not so desirable.
Or make a smaller one.
Or make smaller ones around it, which would be a shame. So again, I was here to preserve as much as I could, and also the beauty of the natural negative crystals inside here.
Oh yeah, we kept
the
this,
negative crystals.
The negative crystals are like the trap of the fluid occlusion that formed it, the secret why it's there.
Yeah.
So I said, don't take them out. I want them
right.
in.
That's
I was
right.
the gemologist talking.
So
keep
as
inclusions.
having enough mineralogy background, I knew what I was preserving. So we're preserving a lot of the crystallography and the gemology of the stone, along with preserving so you would be able to see it. So generally, to separate zones, strong zoning like this, you would normally do what would be considered an emerald cut because the reflection goes from side to side, not from back to forth as well. So you want to be sure that you don't cut too deep of a tip down here because you would have lost all that color. It would have picked up the blue from that side. So I had to make this angle either shallower or steeper to avoid any reflection of the dark blue coming this way and maintain it so I would keep as much of the paparacha color as possible. And also the stone was so dark that if I had cut it in a traditional faceted stone, the blue would have been so black, and it was shallow as it was. So what I did is I cut, again, that same negative V crystal angle in that I know that would be the critical angle of sapphire or the optimal pavilion angle, as we say in sapphire. In order to, one, it goes thinner, which lightens it, and two, it's still preserving the color because the angles are right to that critical angle. So it was a combination of where, again, I've shared both disciplines of the faceting
and carving.
and the carving.
So this is the only paparacha royal blue B-color sapphire in the world. The
And it's
only one.
The only one,
The only one.
yes.
Nobody has it. No. Nobody even think that this is theoretically possible.
Right. And
So
even
we had to
and
preserve it.
That I spent many, many hours studying it with with my friend Brian, your friend as well.
Yeah.
We immersed it into
cherished
in a refractive index oil so that we can get rid of all the surface inclusions to see the zoning, where the zoning was in the stone, where the optimal direction to position the table, which is where we say the eye of incidence goes into the stone, and then how you can orientate the pavilion angles to maximize the weight and also maximize the cutting. So it's a very difficult type of art form because you have to have enough of a scientific background to know the limitations as a lapidarist, where you can go and can't go, because you can spend it and lose, thousands and thousands if you cut it wrong.
Then came another sapphires, the over 100 carat Kashmir sapphire.
That's right.
Which had a little mineral at the surface.
Okay, this is the initial sawing day where we're actually going to be working on the 153.39 carat cashmere blue unheated sapphire crystal. As you can see, it's quite large. It's got the characteristic green tourmaline on the center, and right up here at the top is really a truly clear jelly area. Now, traditionally, we would be cutting this part out right here to do a single gemstone, but Dr. Peretti wants us to keep it all intact with the green tourmaline.
So that, and then come back and just keep sanding. Okay, now we're ready to put in the ultrasonic, really get it clean. And we're gonna find out what the real final weight is of this cashmere natural blue sapphire carving. Probably the only one of its type in the world.
Normally there'd be it was such a big crystal that it has just one nice blue area that would be the most optimal cornflower blue sapphire, and you would have lost hundreds of carats just to get that one little 2-3 carat stone out of it, which would have been a shame. But you came to me and said, I'm not looking for a cut stone. I want you to preserve the tourmaline, because that's the only proof that it's from Kashmir. And so I had to work around the tourmaline jammed coming out of the sapphire. And then I had to figure out, well, what am I going to do with the rest of this? Yeah. So then I did something kind of similar, which is just asymmetrical carving around it. Yeah. And also where there was that one dark blue zone, I had to cut the angle and to capture the blue as best as I could to reflect.
And so for every type of stone, you have different angles and different
Always.
Because it depends on the reflection.
It's like when I did that big Madagascar stone for you. I knew how far down I could go to the pavilion, because we know the critical angle of sapphire is 34 degrees. So generally the pavilion angle at the culet, I go maybe 36.5 to 37, because then with the cone of rotation, you'll always get brilliance. So I can go as tight down and squeeze it. That way we got light all the way to the bottom. Did you get a chance to see the stone yet?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Oh my God. 49.57 carats.
That means we've only lost 1.39 carats, but we've been able to pull together an amazing royal blue stone here. Hey, there you are. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, here we are. We're all set to go. Okay, well, here, I'm going to grab the sapphire right now.
Oh, wow.
It's royal colored now. Now it's really royal. Hold on.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Look at the color
So
on
it's
that.
not such a bad sapphire after all.
It's,
oh yeah, there comes the baby, huh?
Yeah, look at it. It's really royal color now.
And
Pleasure.
I'm so happy that now we have another witness that brings our friendship together.
Yes, of course.
The new 49 carat sapphire.
Yes.
Another miracle of this world.
Right.
Thanks God.
Another great stone. It's really impressive. I can't wait for you to see it.
The point was that sapphire, the Sri Lankans were cutting it down and losing weight.
Right.
60 carat, 58 carat. 56 carat. It never changed because they did not calculate the exact critical angle.
Right.
And then they missed it all the time. They did something, they missed it somewhere else.
And the whole bottom, the whole half of the bottom pavilion had no life.
Right.
And all the life was
And
only
so it had
around
no
that-
life on the top, and then it looked over dark.
It was dark.
And you calculated the angles exactly and made
Yeah.
one shot,
That's right.
and it was according to theory, and it lightened up the table.
Before I ever cut a stone like that, I map it out. So I dop it, and then I put it on my polishing wheel, and I get it to right that angle, and then I write down that angle. I say, okay, this one's 58 degrees. Next angle, 49 degrees. Next angle, 44 degree. And I figure it all the way to the pavilion. So then when I can get back up to the culet, I go, okay, now I can squeeze it. Then I can calculate in my mind as I go around what I'm cutting. Of course, they lay random facets all the way around, so some of the
No, they try and error.
yeah, they went
And
crazy.
with a big volume and many facets, you never get it right,
Yeah.
so it never improves.
Never improves. And what did
Only
I
gets
do?
smaller.
I took a 59, what was it, 50 carat, 30 points, and
you
I
made
turned it into a
49.
49, 59, something like that.
Less than a carat.
Less, 1 carat and a third.
All right, yes.
And it went from a dark stone to this
To-
beautiful royal blue.
Right.
It was amazing. That was
Yeah.
an amazing stone.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best corundums I've ever cut.
Really? And it's my stone?
That's your stone.
Hello.
Hi.
You remember Sharon, my wife?
Hi there.
Hi, yeah, hi.
It's okay. Sweetheart.
So, I don't know, on the spinels,
Yeah, and are we far away, by the way? Well, this is the cross streets are always. We're okay. 8:15.
When you were last time here in New York?
Oh, years ago. So I hardly ever
You
come
like
here.
the city?
I'm not a big city person.
You were out in the outback there in California.
Yeah,
Hacienda.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Cactus?
I'm in the kind of suburbs, but I'm here because of you, Audie.
Okay, we're gonna look that spectacular ruby 55.22 carat that will be auctioned today. Glenn is gonna measure all the angles. It will be unmounted for us to see whether they're correct or not, and take the full potential for the brilliancy out of the stone. And we're gonna have a nice sharp discussion together about how to bring in more fire and more reflections if necessary, or maybe it's not possible, who knows. And making a recutting projection of whether it will be 1.5 or 2 carat to cut down to achieve this beautification process. So he's the beautificator, and I'm like the guy who brings the baby to the boss.
Nah, he's my boss. I do his bidding.
No.
Well, no, he brings all the significant stones my way, and I get the pleasure of recutting them. So
So Glenn is the guy who has like this elaborate master cutting workshop, and he takes his time for the stones. He's the one-to-one master cutter that you were giving only the special things, and then he is there and studying and making it in here and takes his time.
yes,
Yeah, and takes the max out of it. There's almost no weight loss. So that's his reputation.
yes.
Little weight loss for absolute perfect beautification. Second step.
Yeah, so to pull the life out of the center of the stone, right now it's off center and one of the sides is completely windowed because the culet is off center, which means the point at the bottom is way off to one side. And so that means one side is out of refractive index, so that means it's not going to show any life in that middle of the stone, and that's where all the beauty is. And the 1/3 of the stone at the bottom is where all the brilliance normally is performed. And unfortunately,
Created.
yeah, it's all created at the bottom third of that. Of
So
the
the
stone.
light actually comes into the stone. It's slowed down 1.76.
right?
And because it's slowed down, it has to make a longer way to go because it cannot lose energy, and that's called refraction. So it comes into it splits up actually in two different
Rays.
directions.
Right.
They are polarized against each other and create different colors, by the way. So you have to take care of that too. Then the refracted ones go down, and you want them to hit the plane down, so they're not going out they're refracted,
They're
and so that is
bouncing back and forth
that
and
is
then coming back up to the
it's
eye.
a critical angle depending on the light of speed in the stone.
Right.
It's called refractive index in a formula.
Well, it's still within the 37.5, so it's still at the refractive index. That's why it shows up so nicely.
Yeah, right.
But the culet off center really makes it. It is windowed right there. There we go, right there. Oh yeah, you're at 70. Oh, a lot of meat down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they really have it like 70. So all you got to do is take 5 degrees every step, which will you lose less than a carat. The real bad side is this side right here.
And that bulge, you can adjust the angles. And that pushes the girdle more to the left.
Say that
The
again?
milkiness in the stone gets lost in the process because reflections are becoming more dominant and not the
Yeah.
clouds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So the milkiness is reduced, the reflections increased,
Yeah.
and
It'll blast through the silk.
it blasts through the silk.
Right, it'll
Right
more
through.
light through the
Yeah.
silk will
So
make
then-
it brighter. It'll still have a little bit of a hazy tone to it.
Yeah, but I love haziness. This makes this velvety, like cashmere sapphire. It gives this softness to the stone.
Yeah.
It's like a miracle. I love this on the stone. It's like amazing. It's like Wokok style, you know. So now you need to find the angle and the where you want to have it out of the table, and that optimization process is like a long period of experience you need to have, like 40 years of cutting.
Yeah.
40 years of cutting, because you want to make the mistakes on small stones, not on important stones, and learn from there first.
Right.
And then up the scale, up. So he has made, for me, big stones, and has made miracles that I witnessed myself. So I know how he works, how he's doing it. We even filmed it, and the whole process and so on, because it's kind of the look behind into the workshop of a master. It's like you know, it's like a little laboratory where in the Middle Ages they tried to make gold out of mercury.
Oh, now you're.
I totally fall in love now. I mean, I'm in love with the stone. Yeah.
In natural light. It's a daylight stone.
You go to the light of New York, and the stone looks just fantastic.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, true.
It's still
I'm in
impressive.
love.
But the bottom line is, at the very bottom of where the culet is, that bottom third of the whole distance of the stone is where all the performance is. But always, overseas, the cutters always try to save weight, and where they cheat from is at the bottom third. So what you have is a window where, like Dr. Peretti's talking about, the light hit the bottom, but and exits out of the stone. And what you want to do is get it in that perfect critical angle, so when it hits, it bounces back and comes up to the eye. And this stone, because they offset one side, it's got some brilliance to it, but it's still lacking as bright as it could be because it's a silky stone.
But that is super for the auction.
Yeah, it's
This
perfect.
is the potential for the buyer.
Yeah, it is.
Because then you can buy it cheaper, and then you can make like a difference by having that knowledge. We are gonna create that knowledge.
Yes,
and
exactly.
then we walk away from the scene, and let's see what happens. Because down the pipeline, we count on it, and somebody is going with it.
Sold 30 million.
It was $23.
The piece that you carved for me with the tourmaline actually appeared already in a book.
Oh, wow.
You see,
I haven't seen this book yet.
with
Fantastic.
augmented reality.
Yeah. That's
So it
fantastic.
plays and turns around with the tourmaline.
And that was the
it.
whole reason of this piece is like here you could see the original clarity, and somebody would have completely destroyed
Right, and only
this
cut
part
the
here
stone.
and that, and gone just for normal faceted stone, where they would have gotten a 2 or 3 carat perfect, cornflower blue color with the silk in it and all, so it was natural. But your one direction to me was, I want you to keep the tourmaline in there because that is the absolute proof that it came from the Kashmir area, the only sapphire corundum in the world that has tourmaline found in it. So I had to work from this way outwardly, which most cutters would have gone this way away from it and thought, oh, throw this away.
It was a little bit more than the tourmaline. The tourmaline was like an extra demand.
Yes.
But I wanted to all the history of the fluids and inclusions also preserved and not cut off, even if it's not gem quality.
That's
because
right.
I could have cut stones and become a rich man.
Right.
I decided not to become a rich man and keep the piece like it is.
Well, and because this is where historically or gemologically it proves the rarity of that stone, where you wouldn't have been able to appreciate it as a raw crystal. One, it wasn't a perfect crystal anyways, but two, you wanted to preserve the internal beauty of the stone, not necessarily the external. So yeah, I had to work with each area. And even if you notice right here, this is kind of a peachy pink color. There's not a... It's
A little bit chromium.
A little pink color.
Now it's 120 carats plus, and that means it is the world record carved Kashmir sapphire.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yes.
There
Now I
is
do.
no other one, because they're always cutting out something to make a 4 or a 5 carat. And
Which
make
would
it-
have been here.
Yeah,
It is
right.
Part of the
And
stone.
so we were like, no, we're giving up the commercial aspect on it, and we are focusing on art,
Right.
carving, with a little extra
Which the
ping of a
mineralogical
tourmaline,
premium in it.
a little gemological premium on it that shows that we had the knowledge that this one has to be kept.
Yes.
Plus all the fluid inclusions telling the story, the uplift history of the Himalayan, which is written in the fluid inclusions, and all the minerals. So we wanted that in. So it's geological history, our joint venture and merger into a new dimension of creating art and gemological wonder world.
Well, together.
And also creating at the same time world record pieces that become a reference, right? And so we are growing together in our particular brands.
That's right. As we go down, 100 years, 200 years from now, they're going to look back and historically be able to identify this piece from a certain era type, lapidaris
It will be in a museum.
and a collection. It is a museum piece for what it is. And like you said, you would not have, it would have been rare that anybody would have preserved the whole stone as one big crystal. I think there was one little cut-off piece that I cut a little triangular trillion out of it because it was cuttable, and clean enough for
But that
facet.
was falling off.
That had fallen off or cracked, but the rest I had to preserve.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult stone.
Without carving in all these negative facets, we would also not have created all these colors that
Yes.
appear,
Yes.
So I knew you can make the negative carve, so you can also make beauty into it in terms of color.
I have a question for you. When we're talking about my museum collection, the book that I gave you.
Yeah.
We're talking about doing a museum exhibition in Birmingham, Alabama, and Birmingham, England.
Yeah.
They want to give Paula and I a two-person show. And then we said, well, we'll bring other things in. And if you're open to it, I'd love to bring the Peretti collection in, as part of the show. So we can exhibit, the sapphires that I've done, the Pizzoatite, the Peretti rose of the Pizzoatite, of course, and all those things.
with the Perettite.
Yeah, with the Perettite, we could do a Perettite necklace, but I'll have to cut those. But are you open to that idea? Because all you would have to do is do a carnet.
So that is not the only piece that will be referenced in the literature. I think you brought me also a surprise.
I did. So this is like 44 years of my culminating, which is certain pieces in my history that I've done. I've won many awards. I've been on over 22 magazine covers. And so historically, I've been building my brand for many years as a lapidaris gemologist, cutting for gemstones of all sizes. So this collection is actually a culmination like yours and my work, where I work with a very well-known designer named Paula Crevichet. She's one of the most living legends right now, where she's had museums everywhere around the world. And her and I have worked together for 30 years now, where she'll take my gemstone and then turn it into a finished piece of jewelry that then goes to museums or goes to private collectors. This is a culmination of 12 pieces that we did specifically in mind, not to sell. So yeah, we're not going to break the 12 pieces apart. One of the conditions is if we sell the collection to a collector or a museum, it has to stay intact as a whole collection. So it's not about, again, if I sold each individual piece, would I become a rich man? Yes, but no, I really wanted it to be an accolade or a moment in my historical record as a lapidaris, culminating it. And many of the pieces in this collection had already won awards from like the cutting edge or the Spectrum Awards, as they call it, which is like the Oscars of gem cutting. Over half of them that are in this book, like this one piece right here, the big 200 carat Ukraine aquamarine, won an award, first place award. And so then I put it in the safe, like you. I collect it, not for sale. And then when she approached me and said, I want to do a museum collection with you, then I pulled out the 6 pieces that already won an award, and we started this collection. This collection was completed now. It's now in a museum. We have a few collectors that have shown interest in buying it because for them, they'll acquire this collection and let it travel the world from museum to museum. We have already maybe a couple museums interested in it. We haven't been really pushing it. And then eventually, for them as like a fine art collector, they'll hold on to it for 5-10 years, see the value go up because it builds its provenance over time. But I brought you, there was only 80 books printed. This is not for sale, this book. It was only published for collectors and special clients of mine, and I brought you one of the 80 books. So I want to personally sign it for you today, and then later on, if they want to take pictures of it. So here's the artist and I together. A little bit about what the book is about here, and then the rest are just quickly. We do a lot of close-ups of the cutting, right, and also close-up of her gold work. So each one shows the whole piece, and like you can see the whole piece. Like here, and then when you turn the page, each one of the pieces in the collection shows you the close-up of my lapidary carving and faceting, along with, I left natural faces on this particular piece, so sometimes, like what we do together, I like to preserve some of the natural etching of the stone when my carving, like we did with the putrtite and things like that, and then close-up of her gold work. So you can see they're all, each piece is, there's many pieces, and I won't go through that now, but for now, this is just for you.
Oh. To my best friend. That's what we become over the years.
I come over, yes, we have become good friends.
Yeah, right.
Because I think we share the passion together for the mineralogy and gemology, because I have to know enough. I'm not a trained, I have scientific background, but I'm not doing it every day. Like for me, my lapidary is what I do every day. Like you do gem research and gem cataloging and things like that every day. But because of our love for the stone, we're together and we have a passion, and of course...
Becoming soulmates.
Yeah, we are. Soulmates of crystallography.
So now we know how we are gonna appreciate the work you did for us in knowing the context, of your other work that you do. And as far as my opinion, seeing it all different pieces of historical artists in auction houses, which I always visiting all over the world.
Yes.
And participating and so on with classical brands of the 30s and the 60s and so on that have appeared. We're seeing another new star at the horizon with new technology and everything, a new brand, a new historical moment that's appearing.
That's correct. When you look back on history, you can look back to the ancient Celtic art or the ancient jewelry art of Egypt, so they know historically in time the approximate date or era period that particular style was developed during. And now you can more closely within historical gemology and mineralogy, you can look back to what we call the Art Nouveau period, which was very big in France, so the late 1800s. And then, of course, the second modern Art Deco period, which was, of course, in the 1920s to 1930s, was a very specific period. So when people go to auction houses and they see a piece of jewelry there, they go, oh, that's Art Deco. They know immediately it was done by this artist during this historical period, which gives it what we call provenance. And so the intention that Paula and I decided to do, we wanted to create our own moment of history, which is a culmination between her pinnacle as a jewelry designer, and my pinnacle of 44 years as a gem artist, and come together where the jeweler and the gemologist or gem carver come together and create a unison. Rarely do the two work together, because in time past, the jewelry designer would see already cut stone, and then they work from that cut stone. But what was unique about Paula and I is, besides the pieces that won awards, many of the pieces in this book, we sat down and described what we wanted, and then I went off and I carved it, and then I brought it back to her and she designed it. And much like what you do with me, you come to me and you go, this is a very rare piece of cashmere sapphire, I want you to do this, this, and this, and this, and then I take it and I interpret what you want and try to give it as much beauty as I can, because that's my skill. And then together we've done a collaboration where the collection is all based on that, whether it's the putratites, the pozoicites, the cashmere sapphires, the Madagascar bicolor. Each one has a history now and a story to it, and we've also cataloged it, because you can show the locality, and I can then show the steps along the way in my lapidary studio, so you can see the work that I'm doing, the equipment that it takes, and then coming together, and then the final interpretation.
So I will keep this all together as a collection.
That's correct.
And once your brand will be the new star, we will participate in that fame that you created for yourself by having with us part of you.
That's right. Hopefully I'll still be a living legend, not a
Thank you
dead
very
legend.
much. No, we're keeping each other.
Yeah, keeping each other
alive by passion, projects,
That's right.
and everything. And so you will be always part of my life.
And years of mine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.